While the ISL is still in the balance, next week, two Indonesian clubs, Persib Bandung and Persipura Jayapura, are starting to begin their campaigns in Asia. And Persib Bandung are playing New Radiant from Maldives, while Persipura are playing Warriors in Singapore. Anthony, what do you think about the chance of the Indonesian champions, Persib Bandung, playing the Maldives club?
People like to talk about a group of death. Persib Bandung don't have a group of death this time. They got a pretty soft group, I think. And if their minds are in the right place and they can be focused, there's no reason at all, I think, why they can't get out of their group. They got New Radiant. Now, New Radiant are familiar to Indonesian football fans. Back in 2013, I believe it was, they played Persibo Bojonegoro. And they won one game, I think it was 7-1, and the other game was 6-0 against Persibo. Home and away, they thrashed them off the field. But Persib Bandung are a better team than Persibo, who at the time were in disarray for various reasons. So that could be the toughest task for them. They're playing a team from Myanmar called Ayeyarwady Wadi or something like that, I think. Yeah. And Myanmar teams are always going to be the unknown factor because basically nobody knows anything about them. They got one player there called Edison Fonseca, who you may recall from his time here. He played for Pelita Jaya about 4 or 5 years ago when Fandi Ahmad was the coach. But the rest of the team is pretty well on loan. And I think the thing with Persib is how well can they take it on the road? You know, how much do they want to qualify? I'm not always convinced that Indonesian teams want to do well in the AFC Cup or international competitions because it's just more travelling time for them. You know, they've already got a long season anyway. These games involving going overseas and new cultures and no rendang. It's very difficult for them to adapt in a short period of time. So I'm not always convinced that the clubs are that motivated, but I think that if Persib can find that motivation, there's no reason why they can't get out of the group. The other team they're playing in there is Lao Toyota. They're coached by a guy called David Boo, who's an English lad, and he's been around for donkey's years. And he's coached the Lao national team on 2 occasions. In fact, he was a Lao coach back in the ASEAN Cup last year when Indonesia beat them 4-1, was it? In Hanoi. So, you know, he's familiar with the Indonesian lads. He's got the Lao team, Lao Toyota. I've spoken to him a few times. He's very excited by the setup of the club there. But he says, you know, we're not experienced, we're young, we're still learning the game. And I think that, you know, when you look at the Myanmar team and when you look at the fact, you know, they've got to come to Indonesia. And none of these teams are going to be used to playing in front of the kind of crowd that, you know, if Persib can fill Jalak Hadapat with the Boboto, you know, it's going to be one intimidating.
And I believe they will.
Venue. Yeah, but no other games to go to. That's going to swing it in their favour. But, you know, do they want it? Do Persib want it? You know, is it just going to be too many games for them? Do they want to do well?
And the other game is Persipura playing in Singapore against Warriors FC. I always have the impression that Persipura Jayapura are always too good to play in South Asia. Because we know that they always outplayed all the opponents from South Asia, even though if they play against some teams from the Middle East, probably they're going to struggle. But I don't think Warriors will be a lot of troubles for Persipura. Anthony, what do you think?
I mean, Persipura, of course, last year got to the semi-final. And then, I don't know what happened when they lost 6-0 at home. They lost the first game 4-2 in Kuwait against Al-Qadsiya. And that, you look at it and think, you know, that's doable. That's easy. That should be able to overturn that. And they couldn't do it. At home, they caved in 6-0. This time round, you know, they've made noises saying we want to get to the final this time. Which is, you know, it's good to hear that from the Indonesian team. Warriors are experienced. You know, they won the league last season. They've got a very experienced team. They've got players like Daniel Bennett, Tom Beattie. These guys have been around for a long, long time. They've been there, done that in Singapore football. And it's worth remembering, actually, in the group stage last year, Persipura only lost one home game. And that was against Home United from Singapore. So, you know, it wouldn't do to underestimate them. They're a very experienced team. They're not the most exciting team to watch, maybe, but they're hard-working, they're disciplined, and they've got a thing or two about them. I think that Persipura's biggest threat is going to come from Bengaluru. Bengaluru is an Indian team. They only formed last year, or the year before last. So last season was their first season in professional football. They won the league at the first time of asking. And they've done such a good job about marketing and building that football club in Bengaluru that when it came to the India Super League last season, there was no team from that city. because no team could go head-to-head with Bengaluru. So they're a football club on the up. They're doing a lot of things right there, I think. They've also got an English coach, Ashley Westwood, who's been doing a good job there. And they've got a core of foreign players like, for example, John Johnson, who actually played alongside Roy O'Donovan back in England with Northampton Town. I say Roy O'Donovan because he's now signed for Mitrakuka. And they've also got a couple of Indian internationals. One guy, Sunil Chetty, I think his name is. I apologise if I got that wrong, who's the captain of the national team. And another lad called Robin Singh, who is a big burly striker. And with some experience, he's going to be a good player, I think. He's going to be a handful to handle. I saw Bengaluru 2 or 3 weeks ago. I saw them play in Malaysia against Johor Darul Tazim, and they really pushed the Malaysian side. They really, really pushed them, and I think maybe the Malaysians were a bit surprised by that. And so I think that Persib have gotten a much easier group, as if they won it or not. Persipura are saying they won it, but they're up against 2 teams with Warriors and Bengaluru. Bengaluru have got the passion, they've got the youth, and they've got the drive and the motivation. Warriors have got the experience. Have Persipura got the experience after losing 2 or 3 players?
Say that both teams won to advance far in this competition. Which team do you think will fare better in this year's AFC Cup, Anthony?
Apparently Persib are finding it difficult to find a striker. That's a story I've read once or twice. I think Persib are going to need 1 or 2 strikers, and they want to need that motivation within the club. Persipura, maybe they got to the semi-final last year. Maybe they got a little bit more motivation, that bit more desire to take it one step further. And the thing, I know it sounds a bit trite, but Persipura are used to travelling. Every game they play is an away game. It means going to the airport.
Yeah, and the away games for their opponents are going to be hell.
Yeah.
Traveling to Jayapura, right?
Yeah. So, I think Persipura psychologically may have this slight edge. I think if Persib can get some signings in, get 2 strikers in, I think there's no reason at all why Persib can't progress either. But they've got to want to, they've got to want to.